Can a young working class adult starting out survive on $2,000 per month after tax? The answer is yes. Now, before I start talking about this, I want you to forget everything you've ever learned, everything that other working class adults have told you, based on them telling you that the economy is so bad that you cannot go out there, get an apartment, get a car, and live an independent life of your own. You can actually survive on $2,000 per month as a young working class adult that is still starting out. Now, in the long run, you cannot, but you can actually, in some southern states, especially the state of Texas, Arkansas, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Mississippi, you can live off $2,000 per month and maintain a semblance of an independent young working class adult life. So how do monthly expenses look like for someone living in these states? $2,000 per month after tax. Well, for me personally, before I became a surgical tech, I was actually making less than that. I was actually bringing home about $1,800 per month, and I was able to have an apartment. I was able to have a car. I was able to afford my necessary adult responsibilities without struggling as much. And I know you may be like, Mr. Chime, this is many years ago. No, it was actually a few years ago. I became a surgical tech 5 years ago or so, and that was when I used to drive for Amazon. And when I was driving for Amazon, I was paid $14.50, and $2,000 per month after taxes translates to $14 and some cents to $15 per hour. So I was actually making this amount of money and living this life. And even now, I still have a few friends that make this amount of money. And with the advice I've given them, they've been able to maintain a semblance of an adult life while working to improve themselves. Now, how do monthly expenses look like for a young working class adult that is making $2,000 per month after taxes? Well, I will tell you that your rent, you should try to aim it to be at most $950. And there you go again. You might be like, oh, where can you get $950 rent? Well, in the state of Texas, for instance, and some other southern states like Louisiana, Mississippi, or even Kentucky, West Virginia, you can find a one-bedroom apartment for $800, $850. In Texas, here in the city of San Antonio, you can find an apartment that, I kid you not, from $750 up. You can find a studio in some part of town for $650. Now, if you want upper middle class and lower middle class neighborhoods, you can find an apartment for upper middle class. You can find about $950 for one bedroom upwards in my city, right? Now, if you're someone that is making $2,000 per month, that's what you bring home after taxes, and that translates as $14 and some cents or $15 per hour. Be sure that your rent or the apartment that you're looking to get is going to be less than $950. Cap it at $950. That's going to be all your rental expenses minus the light bills, because remember, the light bill is not controlled by the apartment. You always get it from a third-party company, so you can never have an estimate of what it's going to be, right? Because it depends on your usage. How much you're using is how much you're charged. Now, with rent and other rental expense, month by month, it's usually consistent. If it's going to deviate, it's going to probably deviate by $10 or $20, but nothing more than that, right? So if you are making this amount of money and you're trying to get a place of your own, it's still possible in these states that I mentioned, right? Especially in the state of Texas. You can get an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment, especially if you're a single guy or if you're a single girl, for $950. Just make sure when you're getting your rent or an apartment, your rental expenses does not exceed $950. Now, when you go to get this apartment, some apartments might tell you what the base rent is, On one of the videos that I made, I think I made this like 2 weeks ago or so, I was telling you that your base rent is not your rent, right? So when you go in there and you tell them, hey, you make $2,000 a month and you're looking for an apartment, and they tell you a base rent, just make sure to know that the base rent that they're telling you is not going to be your rent. The other associated rental expenses that is attached to that base rent. And when I say that your rental expenses should not exceed $950, I'm talking about both the base rent and other associated rental expenses. What do I mean by other associated rental expenses? Let me talk about these things now. Other associated rental expenses could be, trash collection, right? Sewage, water bills, and they are different from the base rent itself. So when you're making this amount of money per month and you go in to get a place of your own, and your budget at most, you should not exceed this, it's $950. When they're telling you what the base rent is, make sure you're asking if there are other associated rental expenses that is attached to the base rent that is being told to you, right? Now, once you have gotten an apartment or one-bedroom apartment whose the rental expenses plus the base rent does not exceed $950, you're gonna have about $1,050 left, right? Now, if your city or the city you finally find yourself has a good public transportation system, I will tell you, forget about getting a car right now, and you can use the public transportation system. They are very, very cheap to commute to your workplace or to school or wherever it is that you want to go to. Some cities are really good at giving you a map of the transportation lines, like where each bus is going, so that way you can wake up early and go to the bus station and be dropped off at the places that you want to be and catch bus on time. But if you do want to get a car, I made a video some time ago where I tell you that if you're gonna get a car, make sure at your age right now, at your stage right now, where you have just newly moved out of your parents' house and gotten a place of your own, that the car that you're getting is not going to be a new car. That you're getting a car that is less than $12,000 in total price. You're going to get a used car, and the cost of the car is not going to be more than $12,000. Why is this very important? This is important because of something called car notes. That's the amount of money you paid back to a bank that financed you buying a car. Because remember, most of these cars cost a lot of money, right? I talked about two ways you could get a car. First is to go to the auction places like Copart and some other auction places, car auction places. You could save up to a few $1,000s. And you could get yourself a fairly used car for like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and you never have to pay for a car note again. But if you don't have that amount of money, you could go for a used car. I usually recommend Toyota, that costs around not more than $12,000. So that way, when you get a bank to finance you to buy the car, that you're not paying more than $200 on car notes. For me, when I got my Corolla, I was paying $208 per month, and I did that for years. This is the second car that I have right now, but when I got that car, it cost me about $10,000, right? Now, if you're gonna get a car and you don't want to use the public transportation, just make sure that your car note do not exceed $200 per month. If it's $208, subtract that from the $1,050 that you have left after paying your rent. You're gonna have about $842 left, right? Now from that, you're gonna shop for car insurance, because in the United States, without car insurance, you're not gonna drive anywhere, because the cops are gonna pull you up, and you end up paying for tickets, right? So make sure that you're going with cheap insurance that covers your car. I'm talking about Geico, and there are other ones out there, Progressive. You can get an insurance like full coverage for about $150. Now, there's a catch to this. You have to be older to get this rate that I'm talking about. If you're a young working class adult that is the age of 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and even 24 years old, car insurance are notorious for charging an outrageous amount of money for adults of this age. Why? Because they think they are not responsible enough, right? So if I were you and you have your parents, you could talk to your parents and have your parents, add you to the insurance, and you can pay them a share of, their total insurance fee. Now, If you are younger and you decide to get a car insurance on that, I'm not gonna lie to you, your car insurance might be up to 500 to 800 per month, and that's an additional expense that your $2,000 per month income is not gonna cover. So talk to your parents, have them add you to your to the insurance, or if you have some friends that will add you to the insurance, and if the shared cost that you get is gonna be around 150, just take it. Otherwise, use the public transportation. Yeah, but if you're older than 25, then there's a chance that you're gonna get a car insurance that is gonna be around $150. Right now, my car insurance is $150, and I'm driving a RAV4, a used RAV4. So if you are paying a car insurance of $150, and you're paying rent that is not more than 950, and you're paying a car note that is not more than 208, you're gonna have about $692 left after these expenses that I just mentioned. Now, for your phone bills, there are some phone bills that are very outrageous, that may charge you $70 to $150 to have. And for me personally, if you're a young working class adult, I'm advocating for young working class adult going for very cheap mobile services. I'm talking about like Total Wireless, I'm talking about Mint Mobile, right? I'm talking about Spectrum. These are phone networks that charge you about $40 per month. Very, very cheap. $40 per month. In fact, you know what? I'm going to attach a guide that I wrote about 6 best phone plans that will save you money as a young working class adult on this video. So after you're done watching this video, just go down on the description and then you can go see the guide. I attached some of the phone services that you need to get yourself into. So that way you're not paying more than $40 per month and you're still getting the same amount of mobile service as someone that is paying $70 to $150 a month. But let's assume that you are paying $40 per month on your phone services plus the other expenses that I've mentioned. You're gonna have about let's see, $652 left out of that $2,000 that you got paid, right? Now, I always say to budget your food expenses as $400. I know it sounds like it's not enough, but it's enough. $400 is going to cover you per month, especially if you're cooking your own food. If you are going to a grocery shop, or store, you're buying the food and you're cooking yourself and you're meal prepping, you're gonna save yourself a lot of money compared to, like, say, if you're working and you're always going to the cafeteria to buy food, or you're going to fast food to buy food. Trust me on this one, I do that, and that's how I'm able to save about $18,000 a year because I cook my own food. There was even a video that I mentioned where I told you that I made sure that my food expense does not exceed $100 per week, right? It's possible. I do it. It's possible. Now, if you're able to budget about $400 for your food expense, now you're gonna have about $252 left. Now, out of that $252 left, you have your light bill. Remember that I mentioned earlier that you still need to pay, and whatever it is, if you're a very good user of electricity, you can keep that light bill under $100. If it's possible to do that. If you're able to do that, then you have a little bit of money left. That's how you're able to, successfully set up an independent young working class life. Excuse me. This is why stay working to improve yourself. Because remember, you're not going to be like this forever. Because of inflation. Inflation is always going to rise year by year, so you want to be a step ahead of it. Right now, you just moved out of your parents' house and you're making about $14 to $15 per hour, and that translates about $2,000 income that you're bringing home. If you do exactly what I say here, you are going to maintain you're gonna be able to be independent until you level up. Now, there are some states that this $2,000 per month will not even make a dent. You're not going to be able to find an apartment that is going for $950. You're not going to be able to buy a car that is cheap, right? My advice for working class adults like that is to find other adults that are like you, and you guys should get a shared apartment. That's the only way you could keep costs down until you have figured your way out in terms of improving your income or moving to a cheaper state like Texas. I always mention Texas and I always advocate Texas because Texas is one of the best states to be in the United States because everything is cheap here. It's not just Texas too, Mississippi, Kentucky, Arkansas, West Virginia, all these southern states or the states that are Midwest, they are cheap. So if you're going to be a young working class adult, you want to be in a city that is not going to create pressure on you. What do I mean by this? A city where you can easily find a home and it's not too expensive that you have to overwork yourself to just pay rent. And whenever you pay rent is taking more than 60, 70, 80% of your income, right? So it's possible to live off $2,000 per month as a single guy or a single girl. But you have to structure yourself, you have to position yourself in such a way that you are in a place that enable you to set up a home to be able to live off that income. Because if you're looking to go into New York or California or Miami on that $2,000 per month income, it's not going to work out. So my advice to you is, if you're making $2,000 per month after taxes, these things that I mentioned here are what your expenses should look like. Your rent is not going to be more than $950. Your car note monthly is not going to be more than $208. Your insurance is not going to be more than $150, right? Your phone bill shouldn't be more than $40 per month. Your food expenses, when you're budgeting it, put it at $400 per month or $500 per month. Your light bills, keep it under $100, and you are going to have something left. This is especially if you live in the southern states, right? But if you're gonna go, to expensive cities, just know that you're not gonna be able to find apartments, and life is probably gonna be very, very hard for you. So I want you to be planning your life. I want you to always set yourself up in such a way where external factors are not causing you pain, right? And that's all I've got to say to you today. Remain yours faithfully, Mr. Chime from Weekly Bego. Chime out.